could not find her loving lips, he did. Her face she pressed into his chest, told him she must go. It's in my mind to find a home and a husband for to know. The end is nigh, and that is why I'm not asking you to marry me. The tides will turn, the earth will burn, and the wind and sands will bury me. She wandered for 100 songs along the mountainside, and in the town she looked around for the ladies of the night. She'd barter false affections for food and feather bed. She thought of her lost lover and the final words he'd said. The end is nigh, and that is why I'm not asking you to marry me. The tides will turn, the earth will burn, and the wind and sands will bury me. She learned of flesh and pleasure, her skill was widely known. For just a pretty penny, her body you could own. At night she sings so sweetly, the other whores to hear. They said, go to the city, lest fate imprison you here. The end is nigh, and that is why I'm not asking you to marry me. The tides will turn, the earth will burn, and the wind and sands will bury me. She was given gifts aplenty by men she did not know, but one who heard her singing gave her an old banjo. Soon she played for payment, the freedom she had found. Not whore nor wife, but mighty bard, she traveled the world around. The end is nigh, and that is why I'm not asking you to marry me. The tides will turn, the earth will burn, and the wind and sands will bury me. She wrote her song for forests, for trees to give us bread, for whales and fish in oceans that greed would put to death. And when the earth was whole again, she'd find the love she once knew, and say, I see the world you saved, and now I'll marry you. So that's my story song, or a ballad, that I originally started writing for that old musical that I was making years and years ago, and it had the same first couple lines, the same melody and chords and everything, but it went off in a totally different story about this man who leaves his girlfriend for another man. And I didn't end up finishing that musical or doing anything with it. I had all these song parts left over for it. So years later, I was staying in Manhattan and listening to a lot of Gene Ritchie and writing songs, and I decided to make that into just a long, drawn-out ballad song. And it's very, very loosely autobiographical in that parts of it are based on ideas from my life, but it's not straight up my story. But I related to a lot of the things going on with the character by my own associations, like when she is leaving her love to go save the world and she's crying. I had this image in my mind of the time I left my first true love, and it seemed like part of why we weren't continuing together as opposed to parting ways was we just had so much to do in the world and people to meet and things to accomplish and a world to save, and so part of that really did ring true in my life. And I also, the line where she is wandering for 100 songs is something I used to do, and it was also inspired by Jean Ritchie, the story she had about when she was growing up in Kentucky in the early 1900s. In rural Kentucky, the schoolhouse where her older sisters went was a several days walk away, and so her sisters didn't come home except for holidays, and they would all walk together through the woods for several days to come home. And so they were waiting for them, and they were a few days overdue, and everyone in the family was worried, and it was storming out. And eventually, at the end of the storm, early in the morning, everyone was waiting up for them, and they heard voices singing in the woods, and they were singing A Branch of May. And I was really inspired by that story. So since my teens, often when I'm going on a really long walk, I'll sing a bunch of songs all in a row just to kind of keep me company on my journey and get a feel for how long a walk is, even for how many songs I can sing in the time it takes. And so in the story, my song, 100 songs, that's like a pretty long walk that she wanders for to get to the city through the mountains. And also another image I had from my life was when she's in the brothel and the other whores are telling her to go to the city lest fate imprison you here. In my life, I was working at the strip club, and the stripper who was nicest to me and talked to me the most there was just kind of giving me this real talk because she knew that I was a musician, and she was saying, yeah, you know, this is a pretty good way to make money, but if you want to be a musician, you should go do that because you don't want to end up like me and be 40 and be still working in a strip club and just not have gone anywhere. And so that was loosely the story for that line. And I just had a lot of things kind of come to me unconsciously as I was finishing this song. It was one of those ones that just came out in a flow of inspiration and just sticking to the aesthetic of the older language and the older ballad form, and just thinking about what would my story be, how do I feel, and it really was important, like, I want to help the world and help the environment, and maybe as a musician use my songs to do that. And then when she goes back and finds her love, the original line when I first wrote it was, he'd say, I see the world you saved, and now I'll marry you. And it's like he's giving her the credit for saving the world, and now he loves her and is ready to marry her. But I ended up taking the he'd say part out, so it kind of just implies that she's telling him that he saved the world, even though her songs did a lot of that. I mean, he probably was doing something important too, and she decided to just give him the credit and make him feel very accomplished, and it's my kind of cheeky little comment on that part of the relationship. But so, yes, this is my very poetically, loosely autobiographical song about quitting your job to follow your dreams. The tides will turn. Thank you.